Well, alright. Hello everyone and welcome back to cedh Budget Bible. The fire truck is apparently throwing a fit next to me, so just wait till that passes and then we'll start the video. Jesus, they're really going at it. Alright. So this video is going to be an analysis of the current cedh metagame. And I'm just going to go through and review all the decks that I see here and give my thoughts on all of them. Alright, so, Jesus. Man, the fire department going ham today. My lord. So, the first deck we have up is the cedh deck, and this is not a good deck. I used to have this deck, and it describes itself as a unique fast combo deck based on artifacts and highly synergistic. Man, they are lying to you. So this deck, I don't even need to look at the deck list for this deck because I had this deck before. I had this deck for about a year. So, this deck just does a bunch of random, artifact shenanigans with, artifacts that are lower than 3 CMC, and it uses, a scrap trawler, junk diver, and there's another one, junk diver, scrap trawler, and mirror retriever. Yeah, it uses those to get back lotus petal and mana artifacts like that. And then you can gain infinite mana, and you need an outlet and stuff. And due to the fact that white is, lacking tutors, card draw, ramp, just about every counter magic, it's lacking just about everything that makes a deck a good cedh deck. This deck suffers quite a lot because you need the perfect hand to be able to combo off fast. Otherwise, you'll just be sat drawing cards that don't help your combo in any way. Alright, so close that. Next deck is Heliod Ballista. This deck suffers from the same problem as Tashar, but I would say this deck is slightly better because you can run a lot of the stacks pieces that make white good. And let's actually just take a look at the deck list to see, exactly what they're running. Oh, this is just an explanation of the deck. Yeah, so got Winter Orb, Static Orb, wow, Mana Tithe. What's this card? Deal Broker? I don't know what that does. And then gain life, and then skull clamp to draw cards. You got your basic white tutors, and this deck, it's all right. I'd recommend it as maybe a beginner deck, but it's not all that. Although I did hear someone won a tournament with it, so maybe I should take another look at old Heliod. Alright, so the next deck is Emery, which the next video will be a deck tech on her. She is super powerful. And honestly, I think she's better than Urza, because Urza gives you the mass amount of mana by just tapping 0 and 1 mana artifacts that don't really do anything. I mean, she uses a ton of 0 mana artifacts because you can get her out on turn 1, and then her tap ability and this ability gives you greater card selection among the artifacts you have to enable your combo. So I don't know what this deck does, but mine is going to be a deck tech on the polymorph one, and you polymorph into 2 creatures, the Chakram Retriever or Mirren Spy, and you use them to play an artifact, untap her, sacrifice the artifact, and then just keep playing it and playing it with her ability to gain infinite mana, or infinite card draw or infinite mill. This deck goes infinite super easy. And she can also reduce her commander commander tax, so that's pretty good. This deck is Azami's, just a basic blue control deck. I don't even need to look at the list. Just plays a lot of wizards because you can tap them to draw cards, and it plays what's that card? Mind Over Matter, because that goes infinite, and then your basic Dramatic Scepter, Isochron. It's pretty much just a blue artifact deck that draws cards. Standard mono blue deck. This is a pretty beginner deck if you were looking to get into cEDH. Now, deck I just clowned on, Urza, Polymorph Tyrant. I just built this deck in card form, and I'm already considering changing it to Emery, because Urza, you need to have him out for your game plan to work. And I mean, you can counter a lot of stuff. Like, you have a lot of excess mana because of that ability, and he has an infinite mana ability. He's got a polymorph target you can beat them down with. It's a pretty standard deck. I mean, this deck is just like, Azami, but better. Like, you have more infinite combos. And then Urza Powered Scepter. This is the same deck, but just doesn't have the polymorph element to it. I do play the polymorph one because I like the additional combo, and it's really easy to hit when you can just search out like things like Proteus Staff, and yeah. And then let's see what the next deck is. High Tide Jace. I've never seen this deck before. A storm deck that uses Jace to filter cards and recur on high tide turns. I have no idea what this deck even is. I've never seen this deck played at a table. So we'll just move on. Maybe I'll make a deck tech on that. Fibblethip. Yay. Never seen this deck either. This is an adaptive combo control list that aims to create a 100 card Doomsday pile. High density of interaction, runs little to no dead cards, please. I've never seen this deck. I've absolutely no idea what this deck is doing, but maybe I'll check it out. Chainveil Teferi, the worst mono blue deck. Well, I don't know about these two decks, but this is not a good deck, and it sees way too much play. And the argument for this deck is, oh, but it's a 1-card artifact combo with Chainveil. And it is. I've never seen this deck win, like not even once. You can look up like gameplay videos of this, never seen this deck win. So I don't think this is a very good deck. But, I guess this is beginner. This is like, if you're upgrading blue decks, just go from like Azami to Urza to Teferi. I mean, I don't think Teferi is better than Urza, but if you want to do that just to get a grasp on blue, go for it. So moving on, got Crick, I guess, Son of Yawgmoth. This is a basic Doomsday Storm deck. Nothing too fancy. It's monocolored, so suffers from monocolored problems. Nothing too fancy. I like this deck. I've seen this deck win. It's a pretty good deck. Next deck up is Yawgmoth Undying Combo. This is not a good deck. I have this deck currently in paper, and I've tried so hard to make it good. This deck is not good in any way. You need at least to hit 2 tutors or have just a mass amount of undying creatures, and you have no counter spells. I mean, you have good creature removal, but you have that stapled to your commander anyway, so why would you need that? I don't think this deck is a good deck, and I don't think it should be on the cEDH database, and I speak from experience when I say that, because I currently have this deck, and it does not work. Moving on to the next deck, Godo Helm. This is a really good deck, and it's a great deck to build on a budget. You just ramp into Godo, attach the thing to it, or what's it called? Helm of the Host. You just attach Helm of the Host for it, and yeah, you're good. Pretty much win over there. I mean, I think this deck got a significant upgrade with Commander Legends, because now you have Jessica's Will, so you can potentially, even hit a turn 1 win with this deck, but, I mean, it's all about denying the counter magic, so if you get the denial, counter magic, get a good enough hand, you'll just win with this deck, and this deck is great to build on a budget, no complaints about Godo. Marwyn Elf Ball. I have this deck, and it's not spectacular, but it's not awful. I mean, it is a big mana deck. I just recommend you play Sylvala over this, unless you really need a big beater. But then just play Hamnath Focus of Mana. Like, I've never seen anyone other than myself play this deck. I mean, it's an alright deck. I can't complain about it too much. And then mid-range Yisan. Yisan's kind of a staple. You see Yisan from now and there. Used to have a Yisan deck, don't anymore. But I'll probably come out with a deck tech on this because he's great to build on a budget. You just toolbox them and then hit a Crater of Behemoth, win the game. Just extend them into the long game with stacks pieces. Standard Yisan stuff, I guess. And then Sylvala Brostorm, in my opinion, the best mono green deck. Cheap. Build it right on a budget. This deck is super good because you only need a big creature. She can help you draw cards, and you're tapping for mass amounts of mana to cast whatever you want. So this deck is super good, and I would recommend this as a beginner deck, and you can build it on a budget, so it's pretty good for the deck. Next deck is Grand Arbiter Augustin the 4th Control. I do not like this deck, and I think the next deck is better, so why don't we just move on to that, and I'll talk about both. Brago Stacks, okay. The problem, because I've played Stacks for a while in cEDH, and the problem is that if you can't get your Stacks pieces out with enough card draw fast enough, you'll just lose. And Brago can help you get them out incredibly quickly because you can just untap things. And you can just attack with your Glow Rider, Thalia. And he can help you untap things and, play more useful spells. And Grand Arbiter Augustin, he just makes spells cost more. Like, you already have creatures that do that. I don't see why this card is necessary. Brago's just a better deck, in all honesty. Now, a deck I like a lot. I have this deck in paper. It's a fun deck. I wouldn't say it's, tournament worthy, but this is a fun deck. You use Omen Pool, or Omen Machine and Knowledge Pool, mixing the two cards up, to basically lock opponents out of the game from casting spells, which Stacks decks often have the problem of they can lock you out, but not permanently, and they have no actual win con. And I like this deck a lot because not only does your commander prevent early ad nauseums or Force of Will, Force of Negation, Misdirection, any of the spells that are free, really. You have to spend mana, and those spells are pretty bad deals when you spend mana on them. 5 mana for a Force of Will isn't good in any way. And yeah, I like that this card can lock down the game with a combo, and then if they don't concede, you have other ways of winning. There's a lot of combos in these colors. And Dovin's Veto, which is one of my favorite cards. So yeah, Lavinia Omen Pool, I'd say it's maybe a semi-beginner deck. It's not really beginner, because you kind of have to know your metagame to build around it, but she's a good option. You can also build her really well on a budget. All Stacks decks you can build on a budget well, pretty much. Now, Tigum Turns. This card is... I don't know why this deck is played. It's not a good deck. It requires a 3-card combo of instants and sorceries to enable infinite turns. And yeah, your instants and sorceries can't be countered. That's pretty good. I mean, it's good as control, but I don't really see this deck doing a whole lot in the future, or getting a whole lot of upgrades. So I don't know about Tigum Turns. Now let's move on to a much better deck, Yurko Midrange. This deck is great on a budget. It's super powerful because not many cEDH decks are really using combat, and you can just hit them for mass amounts of damage, get tons of card draw. There's so many ways to build it in blue and black, because you have all the best combos. You have Doomsday, Thassa's Oracle. You have all of that. So this deck is super good. This is... I've never seen this deck. Let's see what it does. Aims to control the table with counter spells while creating card advantage with his commander sig. The blue-black colors allow it to win with consultation. Yeah, we know that's a plus. The deck relies on opponents taking damage through combat, so... In terms of lost 3 life, you may draw a card. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, you're drawing extra cards per turn, but you kind of have to play some cards to, like, enable that. It's not just, like, Dark Confidant in the command zone, so I don't know about this deck, but I'll check it out. And then, Yuriko Turbonaut. You play ad nauseum, I guess. Just, these are the same decks. I don't know why they had this deck under that one. Could have just listed it as, like, a separate offspring of that deck. And Croxa, never seen this deck played. I don't even know what it does. Not even gonna bother. Grenzo Doomsday. I love this deck. I used to have this deck, and then I converted it into a Kess deck, which I'm sure is coming up later down the road. This card is super good. It's like a Thrasios, and you could just like activate this for advantage to put tons of like useful stack. Like red and black actually have like not bad stacks creatures. They're just like utility creatures you can just put into play with Grenzo, and then you have the 1-card combo in Doomsday. And yeah, this card is super good. I really like this deck. Alright, so AJ Madness. There's one person at my LGS who plays this deck, and they have never won. I do not like this deck. I don't think it's a good deck. Moving on. Snoopthar, the only Gruul commander. I really like this deck, and it kind of occupies the same space that Lavinia Omen Pool has, where it's a stacks deck that has a combo through Goblin Recruiter, and you can... Green has a ton of creature tutors, and you additionally you get like Signal the Clan, so you can just search up a ton of, you know, creatures. You have your whatchamacallit, you get your Time of Need. You got so much good stuff to search up the creatures if you want to combo off. And this deck is this card not alone, like Rurik Thar is really good against the metagame right now. So this would be the more beginner stacks deck. Like I really like this deck, but I don't think it's as good as Lavinia Omen Pool because it's missing blue, but I definitely think that this is a good deck. Next deck is Sylvala Twiddlestorm. I have this deck in paper, and I like it. It's just standard infinite mana deck. You know, it relies on the same things pretty much the other Sylvala relies on, but you get this for... You get the ability for, whatchamacallit, you get it for, you know, just advantage and gain mana, gain life, you know, stuff like that. I just like it because I play this one over the other Sylvala because, you know, just as an additional card. They're both infinite mana decks, and this deck can play, you know, some stacks pieces. Next up is Niv Mizzet Perun. This is a super annoying deck. I cannot stand this deck. And they draw tons of cards, and they have a 1-card combo in Curiosity, Ophidian Eye. There's another one that has like Soul Bond, but I'm forgetting the name of it. And it's just a basic, you know, they also have Underworld Breach and Lion's Eye Diamond and Brain Freeze. They have all that. They can even play the Goblin Recruiter combo if they want, because it has red. Even though Niv Mizzet is hard to cast, they almost never fail to cast him on turn 6. That's why I really don't like this deck, and it also can't be countered, so makes it really hard to deal with. And then anytime you destroy it, they draw cards, so I really don't like this deck, but it is a very powerful deck, and I would actually recommend this as a beginner deck, even though it's 2-color and kind of skill intensive, I guess, control deck, but I would recommend this. I suppose you could build this on a budget, you know, maybe I'll try to. Next deck is Riel Breach. This is, you know, just tons of card draw. You pull off the Lion's Eye Diamond, Underworld Breach, what's that card? Brain Freeze combo. And yeah, this, you know, just standard deck, just draws a bunch of cards, gets bigger, you know, just blue-red control. And I love this deck. Well, this is the next deck. Thanos, Urza's Apprentice. You will always win the first game you play with this deck. I have this deck on Cockatrice, and the combo it uses with dang, I'm forgetting the name of that card. It uses like a really obscure card to combo off, and this card got an upgrade because it got another one, which was Lithoform, and you can combo with this card in Lithoform engine, and it's really a weird deck. But I would say that this is a pretty good deck, and I bet it can be built on a budget. So yeah, moving on. Gitrog Dredge. Everybody knows about Gitrog. You know, got your Dakmor Salvage combo. This is also a great deck to build on a budget. Everyone knows about Gitrog, so I'll just move on. Marin Hulk. Never seen this deck. It's an adaptive lich. I'm guessing he uses Protean Hulk. Combo early, grind out value in the late game. It can threaten wins as early as turn 3. I highly doubt that. And can recover by grinding out value. And should it fail, Marin or otherwise engines can win conditions as a Protean Hulk pile. Of course it is. Earthcraft and Squirrel Nest. That's a combo you don't often see. And it has a Razaketh line. So, you know, maybe this deck is, you know, not that bad. Might have to check it out. Next deck, Razaketh Apatra. These are probably all just Razaketh Protean Hulk decks. An anti-creature deck that helps to control the board and make snakes. That's what she does. A reanimation package into Razaketh. Seeks to utilize many bodies it can make or tutor up. And then Nest, Earthcraft. Wow, they really love this combo. Or Bloatfly Infestation to combo with her. Yawgmoth is the main combo engine as well. This deck thrives in. Oh, this actually combos with Yawgmoth. The other, where is it? This Yawgmoth. So that's cool, I guess. This deck doesn't seem that bad. You know, maybe I'll have to check it out. And I bet it. You know, Razaketh's kind of expensive, but I guess it can be built on a budget, maybe. I don't know. I'll have to check it out. Nath Stacks. Never seen this deck. Just seems like a generic Stacks deck to me. And yup, I was right. These are pretty much all Hulk or Razaketh decks. And I've actually seen this deck before, and you just reanimate what's that card? You just reanimate Protean Hulk and win. You know, all these decks are basically doing the same thing, you know. But I do think he is the best out of the where is it? Razaketh or Marin. I do think he is better than those creatures. So yeah, guess that's it for Golgari. Winota Stacks. This is a super cool deck, and this card basically skirts around the problem of you not being able to put your Stacks pieces into play fast enough, because her ability just lets you cheat whatever human from the top 6 cards of your library you want per each non-human you have attacking. This card can put tons of oppressive stuff into play. This deck is super good. This deck is really underrated, and I'll probably make a deck tech on it soon. And of course, it can be built on a budget. It's a Stacks deck, so yeah. Next deck is Kinnan Scepter. We all know what this deck is. Infinite mana deck. You know, creatures tap for more mana. This card is super good. I would say that this deck is better than Urza, because I mean, all your mana dorks tap for double, and they still do stuff when she isn't around. And then other than that, you just use her ability, and it has another color. She's incredibly cheap. You could even activate this for just like advantage if you wanted, I guess. I think that this deck is super good, and I don't think it can be built on a budget. This is a pretty expensive deck, but I do think this deck is really powerful. Prime Speaker Vanifar. I know what this card does. I tried to build a deck around it. It doesn't really work quite correctly. All they have to do is remove this thing once, and you'll be set a significant amount back, and you also have to wait a turn to activate her ability so that you can pull the combo off consistently. And yeah, I don't know how good this deck is. I did try to build it, but it just kind of suffers from not being fast enough for the kind of deck that it is, and it's very fragile. Like, you play almost no counter spells in this deck because you need a lot of bad cards to make the combo work. So I don't know about Vanifar. Momir Hackball. This deck is so complicated. I could not explain it, how it works in this deck, but this deck is like, this deck is alright. We'll just leave it alone for now. Tatiova lands. A lot of people at my LGS play this deck, and this deck is super annoying. But I would say that this deck is a great deck to build on a budget because it's half lands, and you just went through infinite turns, and you can gain a ton of life, draw a ton of cards. If you're gonna win the game, you've seen the entirety of your deck. So this deck is super good, but I think there was another card printed in one of the Commander Legends pre-con, those $20 pre-cons, that was this card exactly, but it was 6 mana instead of 5. You can play an additional land, but this deck is really good, can be built on a budget. I'd recommend it as a beginner deck. Rashmi Control. Never seen this deck, but it's a draw-go list with Rashmi to generate card advantage and counterspell stuff. Just seems like, just blue decks with an additional color, they always just have that one just random control deck, so I guess this is it for this color. Toothy Storm. I've never seen this deck. This is a slower storm deck that seeks to quickly land Toothy and use cantrips, wheels, and draw engines to put counters on them. From there, the goal is to resolve flicker effects on Toothy. Oh, so you just cast a bunch of cantrips to put counters on this card, and then you flicker it to draw a ton of cards by blinking him, and he puts the counters back on himself, I think, or this card puts counters back on things. And I may actually try to build this deck. This looks super cool. I've never seen this deck, but it looks really cool. Very creative deck. Edric Turns. This is not a good deck. It's the same exact thing as, I don't know why they call it Tatiova Lands. It's clearly a turns deck. You just draw enough cards till you hit an extra turn spell. Repeat the same thing. But the problem is, Tatiova can drop lands. All of your creatures can get blown up by a Pyroclasm or a Flame Sweep. This deck I do not think is good at all. It's slower than Tatiova. Most of your creatures are unblockable or, have some form of evasion. But it's just slower than Tatiova. Like, I don't know why you would be playing this over Tatiova. The next deck is Tulane. Yay, everybody loves Tulane. I don't even know how good this deck is. I've played against this deck a lot. This deck is really common in my LGS, and you use like Mana Breach and Cloudstone Curio to cast 0 mana artifact creatures and just draw your whole deck with that. I mean, it is a 2-card combo with Tulane, but it's kind of mana intensive and easily interruptible. I mean, Tulane's not bad on his own, but I don't know how I feel about this deck. Next deck is Derevi Stacks. This is one of the best Stacks decks, but I think it is still too slow. Speed is a major issue for Stacks decks, and this is one of the best, but I think it's kind of fallen out of favor with how fast decks have gotten. So, I don't know if I would really recommend Derevi anymore. I played Derevi for about 2 years. I used to really love Derevi, but I just took the deck apart because it wasn't performing well. Next deck is Urstorm. Everyone knows this deck. This is one of the best decks. You have pretty much all of the best combos in the book. You can tutor out, what's that card? Necropotence, draw a ton of cards, combo off. This deck is super powerful. Not a beginner deck by any means. And yeah, I'm pretty sure if you played cedh, you've played against this deck at some point. Aminatu Consultation. So, I've never seen this deck. Never in my life. The deck's a mix between Zur Consultation and Opus Thief. It establishes control and disrupting through wheels and effects like Time Twister, Windfall, Echo Valens, Whispers of Madness. The win con is also cast Demonic Consultation or Tainted Pact. It's either a Lab Man or Jace, so kind of seems like the same deck, but you know, Zur would just be better. So just move on, I guess. Kess Midrange, also one of the best decks. That you recast an instant or sorcery. Demonic Tutor, why not have it twice? You know, if you cast Demonic Tutor twice, you're probably gonna win the game. But this deck, you know, literally plays all of the best combos. You got your Demonic Consultation, your Thassa's Oracle, you got your Breach lines, you got wheel packages, and especially with the addition of new cards like you got your Hull Breacher and what's that card? Opposition Agent. This deck is super good. I'm sure if you've played cedh, you have to have played against this deck. This commander is super popular on my LGS as well. Inalo Wizard combo. This is a really good deck. Has a 1-card combo with the wizard that tutors instants or sorceries 2 or less. What's its name? Spellseeker. This card, I wouldn't say this deck is necessarily as good as Kess. I think Kess is better. But this is another Grixis option if you want to play Grixis but not Kess. I don't know. Jaleva Storm. Nope. Just play Inalo or Kess. It's not worth it. This deck should be a thing of the past, in all honesty. So, moving on. Kess Storm. Same deck. Why isn't that grouped with this? Moving on again. Corvold. I cannot stand this deck. This deck is so annoying. It's just a food chain deck, and they play a ton of tutors. They can tutor for everything. They have like a million combos. Their commander gets massive quickly because they have a ton of fetch lands. They can just beat you down with commander damage if they can't get their combo off or if they're stacked out. This deck is super annoying, and I've died to a Corvold hitting me multiple times. I absolutely hate this deck. This card is also super popular at my LGS as well. There are like 3 people that play this deck, and I can't stand playing against it. This is a food chain version. I guess there's an ad nauseum and a food chain version, but why wouldn't they just be grouped together? Or why wouldn't you just play ad nauseum in this deck? Like, maybe this one is just like a turbo ramp deck. I don't know. Marath Stacks. I have this deck. This deck's super cool. It's a stacks deck that has a combo and a fairly weird but oddly kind of good combo. It uses Cryptic Trilobite and any card that can put double the amount of counters on a creature, like Branching Evolution, Unbound Flourishing, Hardened Scales. It uses that as, you know, just like a combo to enable infinite damage. And I'd say this deck is, you know, it's alright. It's not the greatest, but it's pretty good. Mad Farm. Well, this card is new. I never played against this deck. But this deck actually looks really cool. And I was seeing Timna paired with a lot of the new commanders like Jessica and Ragra mostly, but this is a cool deck. They're all just turbo ad nauseum decks pretty much. They just turbo ad nauseum to get an infinite mana combo with Jessica. So yeah, pretty basic deck idea there. This is a competitive commander, apparently. A deck that layers several synergistic combos alongside Ad Nauseam, Razaketh, or Skullclamp plan to produce a deck with many overlapping abilities. Edgar enables these strategies to work in tandem. as well as win conditions such as the Orange Relic Quarter. Okay, so it's just Razakats, so why don't you just play with Thrasios? Like, if you want to play Razakats, play Razakats. Do not play Edgar Markovs. Doesn't seem like a good idea. Never played against this deck. Never seen this deck. I'll just leave it at that. Kalia Razakat. This deck is super annoying. I played against this deck in the finals of a tournament once, and this thing crushed me. Because a lot of the demons, like the big black demons, they have like a ton of card draw stapled to them, like Villa's Broker of Blood. There's another one. There's one that tutors. There's one that can reduce your life total to 1. You got Razaketh. Like there's a ton of good demons to cheat out with her, and you don't even they can't even counter them because you just cheat them out and then draw a ton of cards off of her. If she sticks around for too long, you'll just lose the game. They'll just cheat out something ridiculous, and you'll lose the game. This deck is super good, but also super annoying to play against because they can just beat you out of nowhere because they happen to draw a demon and then cheated it into play, and they just won the game from there. This deck is ridiculous, and I don't like playing against it. Teamer Control. A deck I'm currently working on. So I'm actually going to go into the deck list for this one. Haven't done that in a while. So this is a pretty cool control deck. Got Oko, which doesn't really see a lot of play. Thrasios, Crom, bunch of mana dorks, Baron, Master Wizard. Just infinite mana combos. You get your reducers, Bloom Tender, Dockside, Kinnan apparently, stacks pieces, draw, clone whatever you want, prevents counters. Teamer Sabertooth for infinite mana. You got your creature tutors and a whole bunch of interaction. This deck can interact so well with other decks, and you just where is it? Yeah, Guy's Cradle. You can just activate Thrasios for advantage. Like this deck, it plays into the long game, and I really like it because there's not like another deck like it, which is like, this deck is just a true control deck, has 3 colors, you have all the best control pieces with ramp and combo. It doesn't really play a lot of artifacts, I guess. Should see Collector Roof in here, I don't know where that is. My deck definitely has Collector Roof, but I don't know what this deck's doing. And, you got draw a bunch of cards, activate Thrasios, control them to get infinite mana. Pretty basic game plan. And I really like this deck. I haven't tested it out yet because I'm still, waiting for the cards in the mail. But this deck is super cool, and I really like it, and I really hope it does well because I'll make a deck tech on it. Next deck is Paco's Modern Life, or Paco Midrange. Says that right there. I've never seen this deck before. Paco and Halden are partner pair that together create a huge amount of card advantage right out of the command zone. It tries to go on casting, protecting Paco using Paco grind up in mid game. Win con, recurring extra turn spells. So seems like a bit of a weird deck, but I don't know. Never seen this deck before, so I'll just move on. Calamax. I had this deck, and this deck was super good. I took it apart and kind of regret it. I really like this deck. This deck goes crazy with clone effects. You just clone extra turn spells, double cloning with your commander. Just clone whatever the hell you want. Makes it super easy to go infinite when you're, cloning tutors or counter spells or whatever you're doing. But this is a really powerful deck, and I would definitely bring this to a tournament. Moving on, Harvester Animar. I've never seen this deck before, but this looks pretty cool. I mean, you just use, it says right here, you use his reduction cost to enable a creature combo, so that seems pretty cool, I guess. You just enable a bunch of creature combos. Tayum Midrange Druid, so it looks like it's a Hermit Druid deck. A lot of decks in these colors are Hermit Druid decks, because Hermit Druid is super good. Creature-based mid-range combo deck, then combo with Oh, Devoted Druid, actually. And a pump spell that combo. Attack him to use additional leverage, common, shit. Yeah. Ad nauseum, hate bears, and reanimation, you know. Standard, what is that? Abzan? Yeah, standard Abzan deck. Gave combo. Never seen this deck. And I'm assuming these two decks are the same thing. Earthcraft. God, they love the Earthcraft combos in these Golgari decks. That's not Golgari, that's another color, but they really love the Earthcraft combo. Like, y'all can't get a better combo, man? Come on. Never seen this deck, so I'm not gonna speak on it. Razaketh deck. Never seen this deck either. Just standard Razaketh deck. Bad farm. There's another version of this deck that I think is better than this deck, and it's coming up, so I won't bother talking about it here. Kaikar. I love this deck. I don't like playing against it, though. They can generate... it's a polymorph deck. You just polymorph in... you just use mass polymorph and divergent transformation to get a Spellseeker and an Elsh of the Infinite on the battlefield. You search up a Enlightened Tutor, cast the Enlightened Tutor, go get Sensei's Defining Top, and then go infinite from there. This deck is super cool. You can get tons of mana through the spirits because most of your deck is just non-creature spells, so you just get tons of mana. Super easy to combo off with. Just has one card combos with non-creature spells, and yeah, tons of mana. Pretty beefy body on a commander, so pretty good deck. Elsha Top. There is one person in my LGS who plays this, and I don't think this is a good deck. You get Top and any cost reducer that reduces the cost of an artifact to one less, and you just draw your entire deck. I mean, it's a 2-card combo with artifacts. I don't really know how good this card is, but I really don't like playing against this deck. They always just dirtle around, and I've never seen this deck win, so I'll just stop talking about it. Kaikar, Underworld Storm. Again, why are these decks not grouped together? But I guess this is an Underworld Breach kind of combo deck. Some of the mini Storm combo decks. Yay. Vadrok Storm. I've never seen this deck. Let me read what Vadrok does. You get the mutate ability. Whenever this creature mutates, you may cast target non-creature card with converted mana to 3 or less from your grave without playing its mana cost. That is super cool. This is a reactive combo deck that seeks to pursue its combo line like keeping a handle on the table is doing. The main combo line of High Tide and Dockside Extortionist, so that's a cool combo, I guess. I don't know, this deck looks really cool, and I might want to do more research into it, build it out, see if it can be budget. Braylon Curiosity. Just this deck, I mean, you get one more combo than Niv Mizzet. You know, you get your advantages that White has, and this is pretty much just the same deck as the Niv Mizzet Curiosity decks. Nothing much to be said about this. Then we have Muldrotha Midrange. There's one person who plays this deck at my CD. Actually, 2 people. They're both twins, oddly, and they both love this deck. And this is not a good deck. They always lose. They've never won a single match that I've seen. And you just, recur hate and value pieces, combo finish. You got your black-blue, you know, standard, just recur stuff from the graveyard deck. Tasigur. Not only does this deck have more advantage than Muldrotha, you just have an infinite mana ability on your commander. And you can cast him for 1 black if you're using fetch lands, and he has a pretty beefy body, so I don't know why you wouldn't just play this over Muldrotha. I don't even know why that's a deck. This deck is super cool, you know, you just use Graveyard. I'm sure it uses Hermit Druid and Isochron Scepter, Dramatic Reversal. You use your black tutors to get that stuff, you know. You get a lot of options with this deck. It also has black blue, so, you know, Demonic Consultation, all that good stuff. And then Food Chain Ukama. I'll never be doing a deck tech on this because Shaper's deck tech was already so good, and that deck tech is $200 for a food chain deck. It's a pretty cool food chain deck. I mean, you know, it's, cool food chain, nothing more, nothing less. I mean, you don't use the commanders other than this one for anything but, you know, comboing off with food chain. 3 colors, so, you know, always better. More colors are better. Feed or Freed Zaxara. I've never seen this deck. Freed Zaxara is a Sultai mid-range focused on synergy Zaxara exemplary with Freed from the Real or Pemin's Aura to generate infinite mana of any color. Oh wow, that's a pretty cool deck. Just 1 card combo, just generate infinite mana. That's pretty cool. I may try to build this deck. I've never seen this deck, but I really like the look of it. I mean, just the 1 card combos. You have black. You have access to very good tutors. You can just, you know, tutor up what you need, play it. You got blue for counter magic, demonic consultation, Thassa's Oracle. Of course, you've got it. And yeah, seems like a pretty good deck. cedh Brood Tyrant, just play Tasigur. They're the same deck, but cedh doesn't have the infinite mana ability that Tasigur has. They're precisely the same deck. You can play food chain with this deck, which you can't with Tasigur, but infinite mana combos are easier to hit than, I mean, food chain is an infinite mana combo, but only for casting creatures. And yeah, just play Tasigur. It's not worth it. Timna Crom Breach, just a breach deck, I guess. Breach focuses on quickly assembling win cons with 1 card that enables such as Ad Nauseam or Intuition. The deck puts a heavy emphasis on Ad Nauseam, so this is a turbo Ad Nauseam deck. Partner Commander, you know, 4 color deck. Nothing much more to say. Brea Consultation. Brea uses multiple infinite mana combos in order to infinitely cast her and use her ability to shoot down the entire table. Oh, it's infinite mana deck. 4 colors. I've never seen this deck played, but I know it does see play. Cool 4 color deck, I guess. I mean, I think the partners are better than this, but not much to say about that deck. Didn't we just look at this deck? Could've swore we... Yeah, same deck. 1 uses Breach, 1 is a Stacks deck. Should be grouped together. Let's see what this deck is. Oh my god, they really put the same deck on here 3 times. Curiosity Control. This is a cool deck. It's pretty much the same deck as the whatchamacallit. It's the same deck as the Crom Thrasios deck, but you have 1 more color and an additional combo in Curiosity. I mean, it says it's a control deck, but like, are there really 4 color control decks? Like, you don't need black for interaction. You just want it for tutors to your combo. I would say this deck is a faster combo version of the Teamer control deck. So if you're looking for that and you have the money for this, because these 4 color decks are not budget by any means, then I'd say pick this deck up. This is a cool deck. I've seen the deck played, you know. Good deck. Alright, moving on to Yidra Storm, a storm deck that can aggressively push for wins using its commander in conjunction with typical storm lines. Of course, just a 4 color storm card, has Cascade, ton of combos, it's in 4 colors. Not very interesting. Vile Smasher Oracle, a Sans White version of typical Teamer Sabertooth. Yeah, just an infinite mana deck. Just group it together with the other decks. Okay, when I said Ikra and Crom didn't get its own little talking part, this is why. This is the same deck, but you have better card draw, and there are even versions that have like a polymorph type thing where you sacrifice either one of the 5 mana commanders into a Niv Mizzet, and you just win with Curiosity, and he also provides like tons of card draw. you just turbo out like expensive spells like ad nauseum, either of your commanders, Niv Mizzet if possible, and yeah, it's just a basic turbo ad nauseum deck with an additional color. Tymna Tana Protean Hulk. This isn't Blood Pod, right? Oh yeah, Blood Pod's down here. Yeah, these are all the same deck. They're all just different variations of the same deck. I don't even know what these two do. I'll never see those. And Blood Pod is just stacks deck. You use Birthing Pod to win. Just Kiki Jiki combo out. Pretty standard deck. You'll see this deck a lot, and I can't really say too much about the deck because it changes based on the metagame, but it's just a stacks deck that uses Birthing Pod to win. Tymna Tana Snoop. Oh, they really put it on there 4 times. Guess there's a Snoop version now with Conspicuous Snoop. This, whew, man, this deck is annoying. Bruce Tarl Boris Herder. He enters and gives a creature double strike, which you play all of the good swords in this deck. He can just become a 5/5 with double strike, ridiculous ability. You can untap land. The one that untaps lands goes perfect with Thrasios because you can activate him like a ton of times in that turn, and this deck can beat you with commander damage very quickly, almost like it's a combo. Like, I've played against the deck, and I don't know what combos the deck runs because I've always been beat by Bruce. Like, him just beating you down is enough to make you lose the game, and I hate playing against decks like that. But I mean, it is fair in all fairness. I mean, it's just, 4-color Thrasios decks are everywhere. Blue Pod, same thing. Sans Black Evolution. Evolution is a compact overlap cards that gain quality speed deck. Yep, just Time Twister loops, Thrasios activations, Thrasios Tymna. Everyone knows about this deck. This deck was the best deck before Flash got banned. It's still extremely good. You can put every single combo in this deck, and I'm sure if you've played cedh, you have to have seen this deck. Thrasios Tymna, Hermit Druid, and there's also a mid-range version. There's Control and then a Hermit Druid combo. Razakats, we all know what Razakats does with Leonin Relic Warder and Animate Dead. Standard Razakats. There's a Protean Hulk version, of course there is. Golos Storm. This is a cool deck. It's a 5-color deck, and you ramp into Golos, and you get Beseiju with his Enter the Battlefield trigger, and then you cast Ad Nauseum to draw a ton of cards, and it's 5 colors, so you have every single combo. And yeah, this is just a, cool, good, slightly slower deck, but I like the deck. I think it's a cool deck. 5 colors cedh, just activate our ability, search out different creatures. This deck can play every combo involving legendary creatures. Super good deck. There's even a version with Gigantha, the one that taps for all the colors of mana for Wooburg, and I think that's a super cool deck because not a lot of the companions see play, and this is one of the decks where they actually do see play. Nagila Tempo, one of the best decks. You will see this at a tournament. This won the last tournament at my store that I played in. You just attack, have something that can untap lands, Sword of Feast and Famine, Nature's Will, Druid's Repository, Derevi, just ton of 1-card combos as long as you have the lands. You untap, do that over and over, you win the game. It's 5 colors, you play everything. Kenrith, I'm sure there's a ton of versions of Kenrith. There's a Kenrith deck for every combo that exists. It's a 5-color deck. Kenrith, he has a ton of activated abilities. I don't even need to talk about it. Food Chain Sliver. No. Just play Kenrith. You already spent the money on a 5-color deck. Just play a better 5-color deck. Kenrith can play every single combo. Why would you just narrow yourself down to one combo? The commander doesn't really do anything. So, in my opinion, you should just play Kenrith. Okay, everyone. Thanks for watching, and this CDH Budget Bible signing out. See you guys next time.